Hey everybody, my name is Tristan Jarvis and welcome to my YouTube channel. Making this video today mainly to kind of host like a hang, like a German bow hang. Right now I'm heavy into shopping for some German bows. I have 7 bows, 4 from one shop, 3 from another, and then I have 2 bows that I own that I want to put into the mix also and just let you hear them. Basically I hoped that this video could serve not just me to go back and reflect and listen how the bows sound, but also for anybody else curious of what it's like to shop for bows, what some very, very expensive and professional bows sound like. This was all new to me, and I've been playing on them for about a week, so I thought I'd make this video. And welcome. We're gonna hang and talk about some German bow stuff. Cool. I want to get right into it, and I want to show you all my setup first, like the bow that I play all the time, that I've played for 5 years, and where I'm at right now. So first of all, my bass is set up in orchestral tuning. It's got a very standard set of orchestra strings on it. The bass was made by Kieran O'Hara. And I have a bow here that I've had for 5 years. This bow, here, I'll have some fun. I'll try to do one of these. I got a lot of art behind me, sorry about that. Hopefully you can see that. This bow is a hybrid bow. So I've really not been working with a German bow for about 5 years. The bow is by Bernard Walke from I think Ottawa, Canada. And so yeah, I'm gonna do a bunch of those. I'm gonna hold all the sticks up to the camera so you can see them. But this is my hybrid bow that I got from Bernard Walke, and you can hold it. You can hold it underhand like a German bow, like this, or you can hold it overhand like a French bow, like this. This bow has taught me so much, and the main thing it taught me is I think I should go get a German bow. I primarily play German bow, and I primarily play underhand. I find myself playing a lot of orchestral situations these days. That's the main kind of playing I've been studying for the past couple of years anyway, and I think it's time for me to get a German bow. So I want to show you what this bow sounds like, what my tonal palette that I'm hearing, and then we can start talking about all these bows. So here we go. First thing I want to do when I was playing these bows for the first time is I really want to just start bowing them. I've been rosining them all week, but before I rosin anything, I just want to play them and hear what they sound like. And if I'm going to play in a more beefy orchestral context, I got rosin right here and I'll rosin it up, but this could use a swipe if I was gonna start playing a bunch of excerpts, which I won't. I won't subject myself to that and put that on the internet. But I think I'll try to make sounds that happen in excerpts. How about that? What else can I play? the main reason that I bought this bow was probably for the sound. In my ear, I want to hear a little bit more of like a brighter sound on the bow, and like coming out of a bass that already has a lot of bass frequency. So that's where I'm coming from, and it's just the sound that I hear in my head. So a lot of people out there have different tastes and different preferences of what they want to hear. Some people like really trebly sounding instruments with a really mellow EQ setup on a bow. Some people like to play solo strings and tune them down to orchestra tuning and have that bright snappiness. Some people like to have super, super thick mellow strings with a bright bow. So it's like, what I'm looking for, like, I know my bass is pretty bassy. Those are orchestra strings. I'm not going to tell you what ones they are, but they're, a lot of people have them. So pretty standard, and this bow is extremely bright. So another way I could say that is if this bow had an EQ set up like an amplifier, and I had a treble knob and a mid knob and a bass knob, I think the treble knob on this bow is pretty cranked and the mid knob is pretty cranked, and not a lot of like sub frequencies. So that's what attracted me to it right when I played it. At the time I was also interested in holding the bow overhand and learning all those different techniques. So that's what I mainly trained on, was like this bow. So it kind of did it all, and I thought it had a bright sound, which is what I was hearing in my head at the time. I could hold it underhand. It has a nice spiccato. I feel like I can flex the stick and the hair at a really comfortable level, even if the bow is like has a tight stick or a loose setup. Like no matter what, I feel like I can get a good bounce to this. The balance point is, let's see, right here. And it kind of just all worked for me. So I basically noticed over the years that I want a German frog because my fingers kind of stick out underneath, if you see that, underneath the ferrule and underneath the frog. And these days I'm looking for that. I'm looking for a bow that my fingers kind of don't do that. I find myself playing a lot these days close to the frog to make a lot of these sounds, and I'm just afraid that my fingers are gonna like hit the strings actually. So as I build my technique and work on the things I want to work on, I think that a German bow would be pretty ideal. But just so we're clear, that's my setup. I'm coming from a bright sound world, a high treble sound world, and I also have this bow. This bow is a really popular style of bow that's like a carbon fiber bow. Here's the balance point for that. Oh, and by the way, my hybrid bow, I forgot to tell you the weight, which is a huge factor in what bows I wanted to trial and put on approval from these shops. My hybrid bow is 137.5 grams. So totally not super heavy, but not really light either. It's kind of Goldilocks in the middle. And that being said, this bow is a carbon fiber bow that's 139 grams, so slightly heavier. It is a real like German bow frog, and it's just a Metropolitan bow. I believe they sell these at David Gage shop in New York City and a whole bunch of other places, I think. But that's what this looks like. And here's the other end. So in this bow, I'm not even going to play it. I just want to talk about what it feels like. Compared to the hybrid, which is my main thing, when I'm balancing the bow like this, like in my second finger, preparing to put the bow on the string, I feel a lot more weight in the tip, like it's pushing to the ground and being pulled to the ground more aggressively than my hybrid bow. So that's the first thing I notice, and I go, okay, don't really like that. Perhaps we can deal with it, but I don't like that feeling. I don't like too much weight coming down towards the floor, like on that end of me. I would like it all to be more localized. And that's the first thing I wanted to throw out there to everybody. Like, feel free to comment and share preferences about, like, maybe you do like a really tip heavy bow. Maybe you like a really heavy bow to begin with. Maybe you like a really light bow. I'm really interested to know what works for a whole slew of players. Yeah, so with that being said, I find this bow a little bit tip heavy. Something I really like about it, though, is that it has these octagon cuts in it. I got this bow when I was in high school, and this is what I did college auditions on, so I hope you can see that. I'm just twisting it to hopefully you can see the octagon cutout of this bow. That's the first bow I ever played that had that, and what that taught me was like a place to put my first finger. I like to put it on like a certain facet of that octagon cut, and then my middle finger comes here. So that's how I'm working. The same thing on the hybrid bow happens, except I put a rubber on there because I wanted to play French bow on it. Also, look at that frog. That frog is cut so sweet and comfy, and that's going to come later on as a. But you see that cut there? That octagon cut. So I get the sense that that means a good German bow is probably going to have that, but I don't know, because I don't have history with a lot of German bows except this one. So this one feels a little tip heavy. It's got that comfy octagon up here, so I know where to put my fingers. Nice sculpted frog, but this frog is rather short. If I held it up, I'm not gonna try to do acrobatics right now holding my instrument, but this frog is not that big of a frog. It's rather little. It's not that much bigger than my hybrid, which has a frog smaller than average German bow, but a frog bigger than the average French bow. So this really, I could still hold this overhand, I think, and do pretty well. Like I don't know, it's not that much bigger. So when I play this, I feel that tip heaviness a little bit, but it makes it feel more heavy. So that makes me tempted to kind of draw it a different way. And all of a sudden I feel this temptation to just make big gestures like that. Way more than when I play the hybrid bow. So I'm like, maybe there's a positive element to the tip heavy. Maybe that's what makes us want to go and let that thing go out. I can just really feel how heavy it is, and it really just asks me to dig in and articulate and do all these things. So I kind of like it, but as far as the sound of this bow, I think that if we're going to use that treble, mid, and bass knob amplifier analogy, compared to that hybrid, I'd say we just turned down the treble knob a ton. That's what I hear shooting back up at me. It's so much more of a mellow bow. It's almost like a lo-fi bow. I hear that mid knob barely touched, maybe down a little bit. The bass knob is just boosted a tiny bit. But the main thing for me is like I lost all the high frequencies compared to the hybrid bow. I like the sound. I think it sounds good, but when I play it with my stuff, I don't know, I just get this feeling that I'm missing a little something, like some sizzle. I wonder if you can hear that. So think it does everything quite fine. Like I don't have a lot of trouble, I guess, bouncing it or like articulating the tip. I don't know. It seems good, but I still have that feeling where I'm like, man, I'm looking for like my fingers are still hanging out here. The tip thing, it's just a little bearing down towards the floor. I wonder if that could be alleviated and what would happen if I held a bow that didn't do that. So now we enter into what bows I got from where. So I started by contacting a very famous bass shop called Quantum Bass Center. Shout out to Quantum. And just because of like pandemic stuff, it was taking a little while for our schedules to gel, and somebody else had some bows on trial or whatever. So I contacted Quantum and I contacted Kolstein, because I'm close to Kolstein right now. I'm in the Hudson Valley, New York State. So Quantum Bass Center is in Texas. Kolstein Shop is on Long Island, I think. I'm so sorry if it's not on Long Island and it's somewhere else in the city. I'd assume that's a big deal, but I'm pretty sure it's in Long Island. So the first batch of bows I got was from Kolstein, just because it was a quicker thing while I was waiting for the bows at Quantum. Kolstein recommended about like 10 bows, and I chose 4 of them just based on a weight thing. So if my hybrid is 137 and I'm already feeling this tip and weight difference in like a 139 gram, which is my carbon fiber bow, I'm like, bump that up. I want to feel what a bow is like over 140 at least. Like, I mean, that could be so fun. That's my dream, is to just make these gigantic orchestra sounds on here right now. So, in order, these are all the bows that I pulled out from the box they sent me. So here we go. Here's a bow from Kolstein, and it's by a maker named Vitale. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I would like to just let you see it. Very dark color, super beautiful bow. It's not how I hold a bow. Forgive me, I'm just trying to hold it to the camera. Cool screw. It's almost like a little bell-bottom kind of screw. And let me turn it around so that you can see where the balance point is. Balance point is right there. Check out that frog. You can see the name up there, barely visible. Looks like an older bow, very used bow. And the frog is about the same size as my carbon fiber bow. So immediately I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna experience a big frog on this one, but let me just feel what happens when I hold it. So, all right, boom, it's in my hand. The stuff I'm feeling before I play it is, this bow feels even more tip heavy than my carbon fiber bow. So I'm like, let's see, like, yep, I'm pretty sure it's way more tip heavy. However, this frog is unbelievably sculpted. Hope you can see that. This frog is unreal. It's sculpted even more than my hybrid bow by Mr. Walke, and might be the most comfortable frog I've ever held that goes into my hand. Usually I'll do like a little handshake and put it in there like that and just see what happens and where my stuff goes. So I'm like, wow, this is an incredible feeling frog. But the tip feels very heavy, and I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. So what does it sound like? Okay. Off the bat, this bow, I think, brings us to a further down direction of where the carbon fiber bow was taking me. think it's even more lo-fi. I don't hear much high and treble frequency. I hear a little bit boosted bass. Not so sure about the mids. It's a little bit of a complicated EQ setup, but I hear a real decrease in treble frequency. It bounces quite fine. I really like that. But again, this tip heavy feeling isn't something I'm used to. So I'm like, that's a little weird. And then finally I checked the weight. And I believe it's 149 grams. So I'm like, oh, pretty heavy. It's about 10 grams heavier than the carbon fiber bow. Makes sense. It's got the octagon cutout on the stick so that I know where to put my fingers. So those are all good. But this bow strikes me as like probably a solo bow. The smaller frog here means that, I mean, if I was playing something like super lyrical, I probably wouldn't get really, really close to the frog anyway. So that small shape here makes a lot of sense. I think this would be an awesome solo bow. Something that isn't like stupidly piercing and whatever, and you can play it on solo strings and it doesn't give you like a twang or anything. It's just a beautiful beautiful sound like that. That's what I'm guessing that this bow might have been made for. Another thing I'll check is this the stick over the hair, because I'm always curious. Sometimes when I play people's bows, I don't know if you have this experience, but like the stick over the hair sometimes goes off to an angle, like it makes like a or a I did call Kolstein about that, because spoiler alert, some of these bows are pretty aggressively, I guess, like warped in that direction. And I said, is there utility in that? Like what? Some people leave their bows like that. Is there a reason for that? And they were like, yeah. Some people think that they can bounce their bow easier. Some people think that if it's warped in a direction that it makes a smoother stroke. It actually doesn't bounce as much. So maybe they want a longer stroke. It's kind of up to the player and people's preferences. So this one is barely skewed that way. It's warped a little that way. So if I flip it this way, that means it's probably going to be that way. I can barely tell though. So, compare that to the hybrid bow. I mean, it's night and day to me. Like this is, I wonder if that's coming through on the camera, but also, let me show you the tip. The tip is a little bit of a funny shape. I don't know if you can see that, but it doesn't look like the tip is like symmetrical. It looks like there's more. You see that? It's like pointing to towards my face right now. Oh. I like this bow. I like that draw, but it's a little too lo-fi for me. It's a little too mellow sounding. I think it'd be like a beautiful solo bow. And now we move on. The next bow I picked up was a bow made by Kolstein. This is an actual Kolstein bow. And when I held this thing, I was like, whoa, this is a really strange feeling bow. The frog is a lot bigger. I wonder if you can see that. I'm wearing a black shirt, trying to show you a black frog, sorry. The frog is way bigger. It's cut different. The space between the hair and the stick is huge. I don't know what that means about the camber, if that's on purpose or what. I have no idea. And it feels extremely light, like unbelievably light. The lightest bow out of my two bows and that Vitale bow. I'm like, whoa, this is a super light feeling bow. It's a little bit of an off color, like a olive color screw. I don't know if you can see that, but I was like, huh, what does this sound like? Let me see. I'm like, okay. What I hear instantly is even more down with the treble frequency. This sounds so fluffy to me, and it's got just about as much rosin as those ones. So I'm gonna do everybody a favor. It sounds so fluffy that, let me just put a little bit more rosin on it. Let me try that. Gave it a little bit more bite, but I think those who are familiar with rosin know that like the seconds after you rosin something sounds super bright. So let's just play it for a second. Still pretty fluffy. Yeah, I don't know. It's super fluffy. It's also not quite my vibe. Again, because I'm looking for like more of a brighter thing going on. But I'm shocked about how different all these bows sound. I mean, that might sound silly to people who are watching this, that you've tried out a million bows and everything, but like I am shocked about how basically all these bows are made of the same kind of wood. It's all Pernambuco, and they all sound different. That's wild to me. So it feels really comfy to hold though and to play. I think it doesn't bounce as good as the other three bows that I've already showed. Maybe this is a solo bow also, something that like you're not gonna explicitly be like. Maybe it's gonna be something that you want a really flat draw, like. Versus like the. Like I have to really try to make a like an orchestra stroke sound. So I'm thinking this might not be my vibe either. Now it's time to find out like how much it weighs and all that stuff. And I'm so surprised that this bow is 153.5 grams. So I'm like, are you kidding me? This bow, which feels lighter than the other three, is 153 grams, and the other one was 149. My two bows are 137, 139. That's wild. Like, that's so amazing. I don't understand that. It's got to be a balance thing. It's got to be a balance thing. I mean, the balance point isn't at an extraordinarily weird place. It's right there. So, yeah, it just sounds kind of fluffy to me. And not that intense sounding thing that I'm looking for like orchestra. But and also I want to show everybody one thing. I realized I didn't do this for you. There you can see the Kolstein print there, but this frog style, you see that? I almost call it like a skateboard ramp. Like it goes like whoosh. Instead of coming up at a right angle to the stick like my other three bows that I showed you, this one comes up and then like skateboard ramps out. I don't know what that's called, but I've never really held a bow that has done that. I've seen them though. I know maybe like Joel Corrington has one. A couple friends of mine have them. But this is the first time I'm getting like a lot of time on one, and I think I don't prefer that, and I don't know why. There's something about when I do my handshake thing and I put it in that I don't prefer. So let me know if anybody out there prefers them and if it's for a reason that I'm overlooking or whatever. But maybe it's because when I put my hand in here, it just touches the frog there, and there's space in between that. Can you see that? Here, yeah, how about right there? So when I go in to hold it, I don't hit it at a right angle like the other frogs. I actually go like that, in. So maybe I get that feeling like it's gonna fall out that way that I don't like. It's subconscious, but I don't know, something about this bow is fluffy and not quite my vibe. But if it feels this light and it's marked as that heavy, that's incredible. And like, kudos to them for making such a well-balanced bow. That's wild to me. So here, on to the next one. The next one is, I was told it's an unmarked Pfretzchner bow. I know that the word, or the name Pfretzchner, there's many different members of that family and bow makers and whoever, but I don't know what one of them made this one, or if it's just meant to mark the style of the frog or whatever. I don't know. But when I look at this bow, here, I'll show you. Very standard looking German bow again. Nice little dot detail on the frog. It's got a really short screw compared to the other ones. Very short screw. It's about as short as my hybrid. And let's see. So this one feels a lot like my carbon fiber bow, where it's like a little tip heavy. It's not as tip heavy as the Vitale, but I'm thinking it's maybe a little bit more tip heavy than the carbon fiber bow. It's got a really long frog, which is interesting. The other ones don't have quite as long of a frog, laterally speaking. Look at that. I think that's cool. Instantly when I hold it, I notice my pinky wants to fall right on the ferrule there, because it's so long. I'm like, It's got the octagon cut there, you see that? Yeah, so definitely can feel that there's weight to this one. And I'm peeking at it, and it's 150 grams, so a little bit lighter than the Kolstein bow. Certainly feels heavier though. I really like that long frog. And let's see what this sounds like. So immediately what I hear is, it's interesting, it's like a mix of a couple of these bows. It's almost like it's got some fluffiness from the Kolstein, but I do think it's very bright. So that's kind of nice. It's got the octagon on it. There. It's got like that octagon cut, so I know where to put my fingers. I think it pops pretty nice. I don't know, this is really, really nice. I think this is in more the direction of what I'm looking for. Let's see, let me actually turn it around so you can see it this way. So right off the bat, I'm like, it's got like a strange combination of sizzle and fluff. I don't know if that is like related to the hair. Maybe it's like older hair. I've heard that, like, I mean, it kind of looks like it's definitely used hair. I don't know, but one thing this bow has that the others don't really have is the hair is really thick at the frog, and then it gets very, very thin at the tip. I don't know if you can see that, but starts to get like very thin up top. I wonder if there's a reason for that too. If that's, I mean, I don't know. It feels good anyway. I noticed that if I tilt the hair, it doesn't speak that well. The others seemed to speak well. I don't know. This is a really interesting bow. A little bit of an enigma, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced either way on this, and I'm still not after a week. But yeah, 150 grams, unmarked Pfretzchner. I like the length of the frog. However, this frog is the least sculpted out of all the bows so far. On the bottom here, it's very sharp, and it's not very well sculpted, I find. And it doesn't like make my hand hurt or anything, but it's a little abrasive. There's a small corner on there that's a little sharp, but cool. That's that bow. And then we have the fourth and final bow from Kolstein. This is a German bow by Albert Nurnberger. One of my section mates here at the orchestra now, Luke Stentz, has an Albert Nurnberger bow also. Shout out, Luke. I don't know how often he uses it, but I know that he has one. This balance point is here. Yeah. So immediately when I hold this, I'm like, wow, this is the biggest frog I think I've ever held on my own. Certainly the biggest frog out of these. And there's something about that I find really comfy. And I did not expect to see a frog this big and hold it and like it. I'm just blown away about how awesome a big frog feels in my hand. Especially coming from a frog size like that I've been holding underhand. This is a monster frog, and I'm like, whoa. I don't know if anybody has that feeling before where they try a piece of gear and something clicks, but I'm like, something's clicking with this one. This is really interesting. I can't wait to see what it sounds like and see what it does, but it's also worth noting that this stick, I can already see, is super warped that way when I'm looking at it, so that means that way when you're looking at it. I don't know if you see that. But the other Pfretzchner bow was like that too. And I say other Pfretzchner because I think that's got to be what that means, right? The style of this frog. It's just a big frog. It's huge. See that Arnold Nurnberger thing? Yeah. Really long screw. I don't know. Something's clicking about this feeling. It doesn't feel too tip heavy at all. I'd say it's either the same tip heaviness as my carbon fiber bow or perhaps a little bit less. I really like that already. What's the weight on it? Weight on it is 149 grams. So I'm like, cool, what does it sound like? Very bright. What I hear instantly is all the zing that I'm looking for, but with a feeling of like super duper control. I really like that. I don't know how to describe it well, other than I can control this exponentially better than all the other bows from Kolstein that I've tried. And it's super bright. And I'm like, oh yeah, like that's... As soon as I start hearing that sound in my head, again, I don't know if it's the same sound that you hear. You might listen to this and think that this is the worst sounding one. You might also think it's the best sounding one, but I don't know. This is a sound that I hear in my head. And so when I hear that, I have this experience where I don't want to put it down. I'm like, ooh, this is good. Something happens when I draw the bow. When I go with this motion. Something about the way that this bow is set up, perhaps it's the big frog, it just gels so good with the flexibility of my thumb and my fingers. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but other than that, but... Sorry, I got a low battery. Hey, more close-ups of me. That's what everybody wants. Yeah, right. Look at that. I don't know, man. That just, it's a feeling and a sound that makes me very happy. I feel like the bass frequency is boosted a tiny bit. Treble is pretty cranked. The mid isn't too honky or anything like that. I really, really like this. Super articulate. So this one's my favorite that I tried so far. Yeah, let me know what you think, but it's just super zingy. Short. Also, this thing about a big frog, it almost makes me like need to give it like a lot of motion that way. So it's like a little bit more of like a flat hair experience. So I'm going like that. I don't know, I get this like super positive, whooshy experience playing this bow. So just to let you know what I'm feeling. Cool, so those are the Kolstein bows. Then the Quantum Bass Center bows came. And they have two Bernard Walke bows, German bows. And that's the whole reason I contacted them first, just because I knew that they had some Walke bows, just like my hybrid. I wanted to see what similarities are there to the hybrid and then to his German bows. So let me just take first one out that I grabbed, and it's this one. It's got the price on it, so I gotta figure out how to show you this and not reveal that. But so it's got that frog shape again, that skateboard ramp. Super beautiful. Really nice tip, I think. It's got all those octagon cuts. It says this bow is 141 grams, so barely heavier than my carbon fiber bow. And let me just do this in a way where I can cover the price. Sorry. Yeah. So this stick is made of snakewood instead of Pernambuco. So I picked this up and I was like, whoa, this frog is even tinier than the Vitale bow. And to be honest with you, this is probably like a centimeter or two longer of a frog in height than my hybrid bow. This frog is really tiny. I could definitely easily hold this overhand. I'm just like this is, I mean, this feels like a hybrid bow. So again, I'm feeling my fingers stick out and I'm like, I'm not looking for that, but what does it sound like? It doesn't feel tip heavy at all. So that's good. It feels just like holding my hybrid bow. this frog with this skateboard ramp thing makes me feel weird on bow changes. I don't know. There's something about the flexibility in my hand that just off the bat isn't getting that cut of that frog style. I'm probably missing something like obvious, but it doesn't feel that good to me. And it's got that almost like a fluffy quality again, like the Kolstein. I'll do the same thing. Let me rosin it a little bit more. How about that? 2, 3. What do you got? What do you got? I'm gonna let the brightness go away for a second. Just let me play the rosin. Yeah, to be honest, it sounds so much like my hybrid. I mean, the feeling of it feels like my hybrid, and the sound does, but with a little bit of that fluffiness, like the Kolstein bow. So maybe this is designed to be a solo bow. I don't know. I mean, yeah, this doesn't strike me as something I'd want to use in orchestra. It strikes me as something I'd want to be like, awesome tip response. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that, but kind of have to work hard to make those sounds. So, okay, that one's not for me. Then we get the other Walke bow. There you go. So this Walke bow is 151 grams, so 10 grams heavier than the last Walke. Super cool. It's got looks like a silver screw. And I'm going to cover the price the best I can and just do this so you all can see both sides of the bow. Cool, so when I hold it, slightly tip heavy, like my carbon fiber bow. I'm really trying to feel and see if I can. Well, one thing I feel is it doesn't want to go on me. Sometimes when I hold a German bow like that, like my carbon fiber bow has a tendency to like be unstable. It's like it's percolating and wants to like flip over on me sometimes. But this feels really well weighted in my palm. And that frog is awesome, sculpted super similarly to the Vitale frog. I'd say the Vitale and this bow win for best sculpted frog so far. So that's a plus, and it's not super tip heavy. It's just a little bit. 151 grams. So I'm like, that probably means it's more well balanced than my carbon fiber bow if it's heavier and feels the same amount of tip heavy, right? Like that's. Look at the stick. The stick is barely warped. It's got a long ferrule part of the bottom part of the frog, like the Pfretzchner style. You see how that comes past? Watch this. I usually put my middle finger right there, and the ferrule goes past the middle finger. So when I hold it, my pinky is in heaven. I think my pinky's never felt that before, where it's like, it's not touching the hair. It's like a perfect spot. So I'm like, that feels good. What does it sound like? Got a lot of power in the tip. This might be the most I'd say maybe nimble bow out of all these so far. This is awesome to play at the tip. Yeah, man. Let me get a teeny bit more rosin. 2, 3. All right, what is that? Okay, so something that I'm hearing is ton of bass frequency, which is good. It's like somebody took the bass knob and rolled that up a lot. But the treble knob and the mid knob are like, I don't know how to describe it, but it doesn't sound like they are on. It sounds like the wood is on. This is like a really unique sounding bow. And I hope that comes across in the camera, because this honestly is the most complicated sound I've ever heard from a bow. It's really unique, I think. There's a sizzle in there that's like earthy and like a wood sound, which I think is cool. I don't know if I've ever heard that. It's such a cool sound. It bounces, it just bounces so good. It's so killer. I feel like I barely have to try to play anything like that. Damn. This is an awesome bow. I think, let me just play this open string, and then the Nurnberger bow, which I also liked. Those are really different sounds. I hope you hear that. I don't know. When I play this, it makes me think that the Nurnberger might even be a little too bright. Might even be too bright. This is just one of the best EQ'd bows I've ever heard. Now, what's interesting is it's not like what I hear in my head, but it's the first alternate sound where I'm like, oh, that's really good though. Like, it doesn't sound like what I was going for in this shopping trial for German bows, but it's just different. So let me play the Nurnberger again, which so far has been my favorite. Yeah, this is like way brighter. It's like the treble knob is actually engaged. And it's a bigger frog than the Bernard Walke bow. This Walke bow, I'd say, is like a teeny bit bigger frog than my carbon fiber bow. It's a really fun bow. I don't know what else to say. Out of all of these, I'd really recommend trying this one and the Nurnberger bow. Those two are my favorites so far. And just to compare to my old sound, this is my bow. And with this, I hear all the sizzle of the Nurnberger bow, a little bit of that wood thing in the Bernard Walke German bow, but with more scooped mids, like you just turn the mid knob down. I'm sorry to be so like dorky about it, but I've never heard or experienced this difference in bows before. It's super, it's almost inspiring. It's just like any of these can affect how you play. I don't know. I don't want to give a lecture on that right now. I want to play the last bow for you. So the last bow is one that Quantum threw in, and they were like, we just got this. You should play it. It's a really great German bow by John Norwood Lee. And I don't know that maker either, just like the Vitale and the Pfretzchner and the Nurnberger. I don't know who John is or anything about him, but let me show you this bow. So I pulled this bow out, and I was like, huh. I don't have anything to say. It's just like literally all the best features of all the bows I just held. Unbelievably, awesomely sculpted frog. So you can see that. Even on the bottom there. So sculpted. Octagon. Really long screw. 144 grams, so it's kind of like right in the middle of all these. I've either played the bows that are at the high 30, low 40, or high 40 and low 50. That's what I was looking for. So this is right in the middle. It's like 144. It's got a really tall frog, like the Pfretzchner thing, and the Nurnberger bow, but not a long frog this way. But something about this is everything that I felt in the Nurnberger bow when I held the big frog, plus this balance of the Walke bows, all in one bow. And I'm like, I really had to like go through all these bows and then come to the final one and be like, well, this is obviously the most comfy. I don't know if anybody has that shopping experience where you're just like, play a whole slew of things and then the last one you pick up is like something magic about it. I feel all the magic about this bow like when I held the Nurnberger, but even more. It's just like the Nurnberger, like I said, kind of, it didn't hurt, but it was like a little rough. This is so smooth, like the Vitale frog, but when I say zero, I mean zero tip heaviness. Like the Kolstein. Like it feels so light. But it's 144 grams. I'm like, wow. So what does this sound like? Alright, what I hear is almost to a moving degree, like the exact sound that I hear in my head. I hear enough brightness that's not too much. I hear some mid-frequency that would let me like hear myself, let's say, in orchestra. You need a lot of mid-frequency to hear yourself. If you don't, you kind of sink towards the floor and your sound shoots out a little bit. And some bass in there, and I'm like, what is going on with this bow? This bow is so rad. I need to play it again. It's the first bow. It's the first bow out of all of these that it has almost asked me to play something quiet. And that might say everything right there. Like, all these bows, I've felt them and just wanted to go, you know. But this bow kind of makes me want to go like. I mean, it just feels like the most dynamic bow I've ever played. To be able to do that and just, like it's nothing. See what happens if I tighten it a little bit. I don't know, man. This bow pops in an unbelievable way. I mean, this just like destroyed the competition. I don't know what else to say. All these bows are so great, but this one just like destroys the competition. And I don't really know why. It's just like, for me, it feels so right. So that's been a wild journey to compare all these. But this bow, let me know what you think. Let me know if you let me know if you hate it. But there's just something about the EQ setup on this that's like my dream amplifier sound, as if part of this whole equation of bass, string, bow, person, sound concept, like unbelievable. So open string. It just draws so easy. Is so good. And I feel like I can do all these crazy sforzandos that I want, but also like be invited to play I'm shocked about all this stuff. So anyway, I think I found a bow I want to buy. And the last thing I want to do before I wrap up this hang and just like throw this on YouTube is just play all the bows on like the D string back to back to back to back to back to back, so that, and I'll timestamp it. So if you want to just jump to it, you can just hear it. I'm going to start from the order that we started this whole video with. So this is my bow. Back to my bow. Maybe one other thing. Really cool experience doing this. Check. So, thank you for hanging with me while I try all these bows on camera, primarily as an exercise that I can go back to and listen and maybe hear things that I'm not hearing in person, get an objective view about all these bows. But I know what one's my favorite. It was that John Norwood Lee bow. And the main takeaway is I think I may have found, not a complete list, but at least a big list of preferences I have with a bow. And I'm so excited to discover that. I encourage everybody to go try, not just try these bows, but go to these shops and if you have an idea of what you're looking for, I can say that Kolstein and Quantum were great about just like providing me with bows that I specifically said, you know, I want this and I want this and I want this, and they're like, all right, well, we have a bunch that you could choose from. Why don't you just pick 3 or 4 and see what happens? It's my first time ever doing that. Highly recommend it. Yeah. Write any comments you have about what you heard, anything that I may have said that whether it was a question or an observation that you might have something else to add to that. Comment about which bow is your favorite, which was your least favorite, maybe one that you want to try. Yeah, and this was a super productive hang. So thanks for sticking around, and I'll catch you next time. Hopefully you see one of these bows in a next video of mine. So thanks so much. I'll see you later.